When we get something new, we get pretty excited usually. It's exciting, like, we get a new car, and we kind of take care of it, and we polish it, and we're careful to not get it too dirty, and we don't want to get any scratches on it, and we kind of drive it like a human being, and we just are really kind of protective of it. And we kind of do that with everything in life. I mean, when we have children, the first child you have is like so exciting, and that new life and everything, and you just can't wait, and you're all excited about that. You get a new house, and it doesn't matter whether someone lived in it before or not, but it's new to you, and it's exciting. And I know Diane gets excited when she gets new clothes, so I think most people do, at least the ladies do. Get excited when they get new clothes or shoes. I know guys get excited when they get new tools or guns or something like that. Toys, that kind of thing. But when we get new things, we get really excited. But then they just, after a while, become that old thing. Everything eventually becomes old. Even the children, they get older. And sometimes people say, why did I ever have you? But, like everything becomes old hat. The car becomes old. It's kind of like my truck. When we first got the truck, I didn't want any scratches on it. And then one winter, someone sideswiped it when it was parked on the side of the street and put a little dent in it. It wasn't bad. And I looked at it and I thought, whatever, that's not that bad. And now I bounce through the fields after the deer, and it just doesn't matter so much anymore. And it's 10 years old, right? You expect scratches to be on it. It's become old, and that's kind of how we do things in life. What's sad about that is we also sometimes do that with our Christianity. And we do that with the salvation that God's given us. It becomes old hat after a while. If you've been a Christian for a number of years, you have probably experienced this. In 2009, Diane and I decided for our 25th anniversary, I think it was our 25th, right? Yeah, it was our 25th. We decided we'd go on a cruise. So we were going to fly down to Vancouver, get on a ship and cruise up the coast to Alaska and do some touring around up there and come back to Vancouver and come back home. And so we're getting ready for that cruise, and it was something we had never done before. And so we were all excited about getting there and getting on that cruise, and we were preparing for it and all the new things that we were going to experience and we were going to see. I mean, it was our first time on a ship. It's our first time out in the middle of the ocean, or sort of out in the middle of the ocean. Never been on a ship, so I didn't know how they did the rooms and all of that stuff. And the food, we had heard that the food would be really great, so we were looking forward to that. It was all new, and we were pretty excited. And then we heard they had activities on the ship and things, and so we were wondering about that. And Diane heard they had shopping, and so she was pretty excited about that. Well, sort of. And but we were really looking forward to it. And we knew that we would be stopping in different places along the way, and so we were looking forward to all of that. And that's kind of like Christianity. You're out there in the world, and you're living in a world of sin, and you're doing things the way you want to do it. And then one day something happens to you, and you have one of those moments where a light bulb comes on and you think, there's more to life than just all of this. And then you start searching, and you hear the message of God, and you believe it, and you're kind of excited because, man, all that history of sin in your life, it can be just taken away. And that's really exciting. I mean, you don't have to pay the penalty for any of it. The penalty's already been paid. And you go, wow, that's exciting. No more indebtedness to God. We just need to serve Him now. And so you get immersed into Christ, and you feel really good about it, and you come out of there and out of that baptistry, and you're ready to go. And you're going to tell people about Jesus, and you're so excited you can't control it. And I know that this happens to people because it happened to me. And you get out there and you start sharing with people, and you invite people, and you come to church, and it's exciting to be around the church family, and Jesus is Lord, and He reigns from on high, and life couldn't be any better. And if we could just take that moment and get it in a jar, and every once in a while crack the lid and just go and get a little bit of that to keep you going, it'd be so neat. But we can't bottle that in a jar. But we can bottle it in our heart. And that's what we need to do. But we get so excited about that. Well, back to the ship for a minute. Diane and I are on that ship now for about 4 days. We've been confined to the ship. And I don't know how many of you have ever been on a thing like that, on a cruise or anything. But for me, and I'll speak on my behalf, I won't speak on Diane's behalf. For me, being on that ship and confined in that space after being seasick for one day and stuff like that, it was getting to be a little bit too much. It was kind of nice that you could go out and go out on the deck and be out in the fresh air and everything. That was kind of nice. But, most of the stuff started to become pretty old hat. I mean, even dinner. I mean, the food was good, but it's dinner. You went to dinner, and you sat in the same place for dinner, and you kind of had whatever your choice for dinner, and you had checked out most of the things. You had checked out a lot of the things on the ship, and some of them you weren't interested in. And I will tell you one thing they do on those ships. I mean, they have things to sell. Jewelry, watches, different things. They have gadgets to sell. Every second store is one of those. And when you stop in the ports, after a while, they all became the same thing. They had all the jewelry stores, and you could buy over in this port over here and then go to the next port and trade that in on something different if you want. It's the same store. It was just a lot of that. Now, it was kind of interesting when we got to Ketchikan, because Ketchikan was different. It was actually a town where you got to go into town, and it wasn't all these stores out front, and you got to see the fish jumping in the creek that they're famous for their salmon and all that stuff. And it was kind of neat. But for the most part, things started to get kind of old hat. And so after a while, you find some people would start complaining because it really wasn't fun anymore. And so you're on this journey, and you start thinking, I wonder what's going on at home. I wonder how things are going back there. And you start thinking about this stuff, and you get distracted from the journey a little bit, and you're kind of bored with the whole thing. Well, the same kind of thing happens sometimes with Christianity. You got all that excitement. And after a while, I mean, you're out there and you started inviting people and you started sharing with people and you're all excited, and you hit these walls and you're getting hit. Boom! Boom! And people are stalling you in your tracks and refusing Christ and laughing at you and whatever they're doing to you, and you're getting all of these hits and you're getting all of this rejection, and you start slowing down. And then slowly you start questioning and maybe doubting a little bit. And you're going through all of that, and life just doesn't seem as exciting as when you started out. And you're thinking, what am I doing? And look there's that nice thing over there. And there's that over there. I could be doing that. And I mean, I'm just getting beat to death if I do this here with Christianity. And so we start looking maybe to the world and looking for some excitement or get some spark back in our life from things in the world. And we start justifying why we start doing things. Well, people don't want to hear about Jesus anyways. So why am I out there doing it? Why am I telling anybody about him? And we start justifying things that way. And we get all distracted again by the life that we were called out of. By the world and everything around us. In Matthew chapter 13, Jesus talked about the sower going out to sow seed. And he said it lands on 4 different types of soil. And 2 of those soils, the rocky ground and the thorns, same thing kind of happened. The cares and the concerns of the world or the distractions of the world kind of choked out Jesus from your heart. It kind of took over your heart and didn't leave room in your heart for Jesus. And that's what he's talking about in that parable. He says, you can't let that happen. But we get out there sometimes and we're just human. And we allow all of this stuff to take over our life. Because we had got wore down. We had got beat down on the journey a little bit. As we were going along in the ship of life, we were hitting some rough seas. And we didn't like it. We wanted it to be smoothed out. So we were looking for something that would be a little smoother to float around in. And we kind of head back to the same old things that we were started with. Well, that's how life goes sometimes, the ship of life. But as you know, every ship has a destination. We got on that ship the last day before we came back to Vancouver. And we knew that, I think it was Ketchikan was the last stop. We got on that ship, we knew it was going to be a day's ride, a sleep and a day's ride, to Vancouver. And so, on the way back, we realized this journey is coming to an end that we took. And you begin to think about the journey and what you did on that journey. And you start to think of things like, well, we participated in the little bit of golf game they had going on there, and we did a little basketball on the top deck. It was kind of scary being up on that top deck and looking out in the ocean, but for me, because I'm scared of heights, but we're up there 10 decks, right? And we're playing basketball up in the open air on that ship, and things like that. But there's a lot of things to do on that ship. And you can get thinking back to, oh man, I should have done that. I should have went over there and did that thing and tried that out. Or maybe I should have gone and did this other thing and gone, maybe taken that in, or things we didn't do. We had rain most of the time we were on that cruise. A lot of the time. It was kind of rainy and cold. And so a lot of people complained about that. But I was glad about one thing. I went out on the deck, whether it was raining or not, and stood out there and watched stuff go by the ship on the coastline, or stuff. You could see a bear a mile away or a mile and a half away on the coastline and stuff like that, and the fish jumping and things. But you start thinking as you're going back, oh man, could I got more out of this? Could I have done something differently? Could I be taking better memories home? All of those kinds of things start flooding your mind. Maybe I should have tried to talk to the captain. I did try to talk to the captain. But people think about things that they could have done to maybe make it different or that kind of thing. And we do that same thing in Christianity. I've talked to a lot of people. And this ship of life that we're living, that we're going through life on, it docks. It ends. It stops after a while. And that time comes a lot quicker than a lot of us think it's going to come. And I've seen people, when they're coming to the end of their life, thinking about the things they should have done, or the opportunities maybe that they squandered, or the things they could have done, but they just didn't do them. Maybe tried some different things. Maybe talk to people that you know about Jesus more. I heard one fellow say one time, he's saying, as I reflect on my life as it's coming to an end, he said, I feel really awful. And I said, well, why is that? He said, I've been a Christian for 45 years. And he said, I know for a fact that I never talked to 45 people about Jesus. Now think about that. So he's coming to the end of his journey, his ship of life, and he's lamenting over the fact that he never told people about his Lord and Savior. And a lot of Christians do that. Maybe I should have shared the gospel more. When our ship comes to the dock, our ship of life docks, probably one of the more important things in life is going to be, did you share the gospel with people? Because that's what life boils down to. That's what really matters. And so a lot of Christians lament over that. They think, maybe I spent too much time working on having a nice car and a nice house and not enough time on praising my Lord or glorifying my Lord. Maybe I should have done this differently, or I should have done that differently. And everyone has their own things that they're dealing with that. Some people think, maybe I should have just been nicer or kinder to people. Man, I would have been better than what I did. Maybe I should have been more obedient to God. I know I kind of was baptized into Christ, and I say I'm a Christian, and this is real. You don't know how many people, when they get older, start looking back and saying, have I been obedient? And they start wondering about the life that they lived for Christ. See, when we are a Christian, our life for Christ should be our life. But so often we let distractions in, and then when we get to the end, we have all kinds of questions. Maybe I should have spent more time with my family and not so much time at work. Maybe I didn't have a proper balance there. All that kind of thing. People lament over when they get older. The problem is that when you get there, it's kind of too late. You're not going to get the opportunity to go back and redo that. And so you got a situation. With a cruise, you could just say, well, we'll go on another cruise and we'll do it better. We'll enjoy it more or whatever. But with life, it doesn't work that way. If you didn't enjoy this life, if you didn't live this life for God, you can't go back and fix it. And so as a Christian, I want to encourage you this morning that we have two choices in how we ride out the ship of life that God has given us. We decide what we will do on that ship of life, and we decide where we will be when that ship docks. That's our two things that we do. And so we can choose. Am I going to live a life distracted by the world? Am I going to live a life that is about me, myself, and I just want to have all the fun things and do all the fun things and chase after my desires, and I'm not really worried about if I give in to my temptations because I have the blood of Jesus to cover me, and I'm just going to just go out there and live life to the fullest and hope for the best, and God will fix it in the end? If you live that life, if you take that choice, your life will end at the dock with regrets. You'll have a lot of regrets. You'll be wishing you had lived life better. Maybe been more faithful. Maybe you knew better, but you didn't do it. And that can be a thing that really eats on the conscience. It can be a thing that can destroy us. But the saddest part about that is, when you hit that dock, when life ends, you're sitting there, you're sitting on that dock, and you're found hoping that you're okay with God and you'll get to heaven. You know, John said we can know that we are God's. We can know that we are saved. He didn't say hope and just hope for the best. He said you can know. So you don't want to be found at the end of life hoping. Instead, you can make the other choice. You can reap the reward, the promised reward that God's given us in Christ Jesus. You see, if we live a life and we live it to the full, to the glory and honor of God, we won't be found hoping at the end. We will know. We will go on to the next life with confidence. Paul said in 1 Corinthians 9, and he equated it to a race. Journey, the same thing. But he equated it to a race. And he said, you know, everybody runs a race because they want that reward at the end. In other words, there isn't anyone on that track, there isn't an athlete on that track that isn't running full out, putting 110% behind himself to get to that reward. And he said, but only one gets the reward. Well, that's not the way it is with Christianity. But he said, the way they're running, that's the way you should run the race of life, or the journey through life. He said, run it because you want that reward. That's the focus. That's where you're going, all out for that reward. The Hebrew writer tells us in chapter 12 and verse 1, he said, since we have such a great cloud of witnesses of the reality of God and of Jesus, he said, we need to run the race that is set before us with endurance. See, God never said it's going to be easy. He just said the reward's going to be good. And so you need to take what life dishes out, run it with endurance, run it with a focus on the reward, and it doesn't matter what it is in life what that hits you. It's not going to stop you from that reward because you have that endurance. Paul, when he came to that dock in his life, when he came to the end of his life, he said in 2 Timothy 4 and verse 7, I have fought the good fight. He said, I've finished the race and I've kept the faith. That was what was important to Paul. Not how many camels he had, I guess at that time, or whatever he had, or horses and chariots, or houses and money. None of that stuff was important. When he came to the end of his life, he said, man, I fought the good fight. That means he fought God's fight. That's the good fight. He said, I have finished the race. I got to the end. And I've kept my faith. And that's what's important. You get to the end and you have your faith. You've won the victory. The victory that Jesus promises us in Him. You gain that reward. You know, I know for a fact that every one of us want to come to the end of our life like Paul did. We want to be able to say those same words truthfully. But too often, we don't want to put in the effort. Or maybe we don't have the patience, or we don't have the endurance. We just want it to come kind of easy. Folks, it isn't going to come easy. It doesn't work that way. If you want encouragement in your walk, I know that every one of us has struggles, me included. Every one of us struggle with things. So you can't sit there and say, well, I don't struggle with anything because I know better. Because we all do. But if you want encouragement to overcome some of those struggles, if you want encouragement to walk so you can say you fought the good fight, you've won the race, we want to help you with that this morning. And if you haven't started that journey, you need to start that journey. You need to get into Christ. You need to have Him as your Lord and Savior. And so we invite you to come forward now. If you need Christ, if you want help with your journey, come forward while we stand and sing.
Take my life and let it be consecrated, Lord, to Thee. Take my moments and my days, let them flow in ceaseless praise. Take my hands and let them move at the impulse of Thy love. Take my feet and let them be swift and beautiful for Thee. Take my voice and let me sing, always only for my King. Take my lips and let them be filled with messages from Thee. Take my silver and my gold, not a mite would I withhold. Take my intellect and use every power as Thou shalt choose. Take my love, my Lord, I pour at Thy feet its treasure store. Take myself and I